Oh, we went off and back on again. Can you hear me? Yep. Yeah.
All right, I'm good.
Okay, so again, welcome Stephen to the show. It's another episode of Billy and Stephen talk the zeitgeist and whatever else comes into our mind over the next hour or so. So, what's been happening in your world since the last time we talked, last Saturday? Anything new in the scene? Fucking Trump?
Trump.
After
Well,
that?
oh God, here, where do I start? All right, well, the election is not looking too good, to be honest with you. It really doesn't look like they're going to have. I've been saying for the longest time they're not going to have an election, and now their debates are stopping, and what else? They're coming up with all kinds of nonsense with the mail-in ballots and this sort of thing. So yeah, they're coming up with an excuse.
I certainly think the Trump going into hospital has kind of killed the debates thing, because the first one was obviously such a farce. Do they really want more of them in between? People realize how much of a joke it is. Do they want to vote for any of these two guys? So that's a way to cover that up, I don't know whether they'll postpone the election, or I don't know what the plans are.
Well, the most telling thing right now is the military coming out, U.S. military coming out, saying that they were outlining the protocols and the situation that would have to occur for them to become involved should they determine that the results of the election or post-election was chaos. So obviously they're trying to promote that. They're trying to start a civil war. Because of this, it's becoming such a farce where both of these candidates are becoming. It's like I said on the last show I did. We're both of these guys are shit. We're arguing over which shit is better than the other shit. Why are we we even wasting time with all this shit? It's crazy.
Yeah, that's what I keep coming back to.
Yeah.
But basically, that's in the mainstream news, and they have the police and the army at their disposal, so it makes a little bit of a difference to how seriously we have to take it, because it is a reality in our world that is trying to enforce their power over people, even through it means of deceit. They've still got that. They're using the media to mass hypnotize people and program their brains to follow their agenda, and then criticize people like us who speak out and understand the bigger plan. And it makes us seem like the crazy ones for standing up. I just watched a video there. Oh my God, there was this old woman in a care home, and there was a door, and the guy was videoing his own mother through a window, and the old lady's like, "Please, just cuddle me, just cuddle me." And she's totally distraught, and it's like, why are we allowing this to happen? And how can people possibly defend that? It's disgraceful.
Yeah, huh? Well, see, here's the thing, though, and I was thinking about this before we got started, but because you sent me a little video, you asked me if I looked at, and of course, there's lots of information there that this woman had to offer. But the point is that we're in the middle of a big war right now, and there's a lot of people that want to talk about it, and they want to know what it's going to be like when it's over. And when you're in it, because obviously you're in it right now, it's kind of very hard to even comment, because the commenting on it is not what the war is all about. You understand? It's like we're too busy fighting. It's almost annoying to have to even stop fighting to talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
Just to explain to people out there what Stephen's meaning is, he's fighting the kind of real controllers of this earth, who are reptoids, or these beings who live, a lot of them underground, but also in the 4D. So he's kind of got an army of Jedis who go into their sleep and attack these guys there. So that's a whole different reality to what's playing out in this 3D reality, although there is a kind of reptoid element underground. And Stephen's the main guy behind the Occupy the Getty movement, which a lot of these people in the Trump thing talking about the tunnels, they never actually mentioned the Getty. And if they're not mentioning Stephen's name in the Getty, then basically he thinks they're just having to talk about it to hold that conversation that they've
it's not
up.
an ego thing. That's not really.
No, because that's there, and it's a real thing.
Well, the fact that it is a real thing is why it's so tiring, because it is a real thing, and it's really super heavy hardcore right now, and that just sort of just like everything else becomes so monotonous and laborious to continue with, because it's getting so hard right now.
You're
And but
talking about in
even
the 40.
in the 4D, but even in the 3D, it's getting extremely hard for all of us,
Yeah.
especially those of us in the truth movement have had our names out there for some time. I know you. I don't know if you've still got your YouTube page or your Facebook page or whatever, but I don't have any of that. And I had a computer die the other day. That was a bummer, but it's like it takes a lot to do this stuff, and when they beat on you, it gets kind of frustrating, right? And
This
they're
is
really
why
beating on us hard right now.
this is why I don't like people who criticize conspiracy theorists, because it actually takes a lot of time and effort to be a conspiracy theorist,
And
To try and,
resources.
yeah, well, to try and piece all this stuff together. And then first of all, once you start to do that, I think once you've got a certain amount of knowledge, you have a responsibility to try and share that with others. And then again, as you say, the resources to do that, you need, like I've had webinar softwares, I pay for websites, I pay for all this stuff. I get no
Yeah,
reward for
yeah.
that. And it's all
And
to
it
try and
doesn't
share it.
last. It doesn't last, right?
Nobody
You got
looks
to
at
replace it.
it. Nobody comments. I just keep doing it, and it just, I don't know. People are too busy sharing crap and looking at pish, and I don't know. If you're not, it's all about marketing rather than substance. I think a lot of it,
Mhm.
So how good you can market yourself means how successful you are, rather than how good is your info, and that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, but it also applies a lot to people are looking for entertainment, and they're not going out of their way to look for information like this. It's just not entertaining. And I could see a video about somebody making a knife out of salt water or something, and it's got 28 million views. It's like, wow, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like,
It's
so it's the human brain, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, we're kind of, again, this all social media. If you look at the newspapers of old, are very detailed and there's a lot of reading in them, but our brain and our attention span is just, I think we get hit with that so much stuff. Just as wee light-hearted things or the wee interesting things, it's like a release, and people get addicted to that as like an endorphin rather than actually read something of substance. It's going to take time and effort, and when you learn all this stuff, you have to face yourself, and I think people are scared of doing that, because if you realize the truth of what's going on in the world, then if you're contributing to that, then you have to make a decision. Are you going to do that consciously? I think you've obviously are a great example of that. When you realized what you were involved in, you walked away from a big contract, and
Yeah, but that's the money bit part of it, right? And that's the thing is that and I think that's the answer right there why people do not get involved or they do not go out after the stuff, because they're afraid if they do go down that rabbit hole, that's going to affect they're going to say it's the wrong thing to the wrong person. They're going to not make that money or lose that family member or lose those connections or whatever, and ultimately it's going to impact their income. So
yep.
that's where they got everybody.
Well, that's the big controller is the money, and that's what's going to be worse. Obviously, with this plan to make a cashless society, there's so many places right now, kind of saying we don't accept cash, basically, and people are being
Mhm.
encouraged, if you've got the cash, leave it on the desk and walk away, because they can't legally not accept money, but still they're making that concerted effort. They're just turning up everything.
Well, that's going to make it very difficult for people that may not be involved in banking and that sort of activity, and they're making it very hard for us. Or I mean, shutting down our Facebook accounts, and eventually they're going to remove our ability to use PayPal, and they're going to make it so that we can't withdraw money, we can't have a bank account, and if we do have cash, they won't take it. So yeah, that's the mark of the beast. It's all part of it. And certainly those people that are going to feel it first are those of us that are making an effort to avoid, to live off the grid and avoid their evil. So it sucks.
Yeah, it's obviously why it's quite important that people get this understanding of what's going on en masse as quickly as possible. But it's hard to see it happening when you go into a supermarket and literally everyone there is wearing a mask out of the fear, I think, of just that one person to be different. Nobody wants to be the one that sticks out. And that's, I think, because when I go in there without a mask, they're not screaming, "Oh, you're giving us the virus," because in the back of their head, they must be, no, that there's something quite not right with that story. So, you don't get much grief over it, at least where I live right now. But they can turn that
So
up.
I think you'll agree with me though, when you got a guy like you or me, with the hair and all that, when you put a mask on, it looks sort of like a 1970s women's underwear commercial. You agree?
Yeah. That's good.
It just looks silly.
Those old beer cans.
I'll give you an example here. Look at this. Well, here, I got a good example right here. This it's even got a little tag right here. Oh gosh, doesn't that look sort of like? See, with you, with all the hair hanging out there, it's to be like, doesn't that look like ladies' underwear with a little trim and all that shit?
It does, the old hairy
I know.
people.
Maybe that would be a good way to. I just realized it. Protest. Start wearing a mask that looks like fucking panties. You're walking around. Yeah,
it's like a woman's vagina going that way.
Whatever, just some sort of really vulgar looking thing, and people are like, "What are they going to do now? They're going to have to develop some sort of protocol for mask protocol. Oh, you cannot. It's illegal to wear an offensive slogan on your mask or something. I mean, right? Eventually, they're going to be legislating what sort of mask you can wear.
They're going to legislate the hell out of everything, basically, and they're already trying to not legislate. They're making these guidelines, no singing and all this kind of stuff, and
no singing.
Yeah, in pubs, the band singing, the band music. That's with the track and trace, and had to sit at your table. I never went into any of them, but this was you couldn't walk into the pub. You had to wear a mask to get to your seat. This is still in Scotland. There's all this rules, and then recently on a couple of days ago, Friday, Nicola Sturgeon, she made all the pubs close. Basically, was it after 6 o'clock? No, it was 10 o'clock. Now they're down to 6 o'clock. No alcohol. And they're just
no alcohol after 6 p.m.
Yeah, that's what happened in
the
Scotland.
sun is out.
Yeah,
and you cannot.
It was 10, and now basically,
what?
this is what the hospitality service done.
No, I'm sorry. That's just you're freaking me out here. I can't. This is no.
For 2 weeks.
No.
It's called a circuit break or something like this.
Oh my god. Okay.
This is in Scotland. Can you believe this? And people are standing for it.
No, I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. I'm shocked.
This is how they protest. Right, strap yourself in for this. So the hospitality industry, they're kind of protesting this. So out front of Parliament.
Kind of protesting.
Well, this is how they've done it. Outside the Parliament, they got a big truck full of ice, and every hospitality worker went and got a carrier bag full of ice from this truck, walked to in front of the Parliament building and placed it down, and every block of ice represented like one customer they would have served that day or something. So they all stood in a line to do this, but there was rules, and the rules were you had to go one at a time, you had to wear your mask, and there's like four, so they were like being sheep, and they were protesting.
Stupid. Okay, hang on here. I have to assess this for a second here because, I mean, I know you must enjoy a good stout once in a while, right? A good pint, right?
Goodness,
yeah, right? Yeah, okay. Well, but damn it. They took it from 2 a.m. to 10 p.m. and now you're saying 6. I mean, I can't even deal with this 10 p.m. stuff. I'm actually having my show over or start an hour early and run shorter just so I can get out of here sooner because of the damn 10 p.m. It's like, and then you actually got to tell your server, would you please make sure to let me know when the last call is? It's horrible. It's horrible.
It's ridiculous. But the thing is, there's a big knock-on effect from this, because the hospitality industry and all these cafes and stuff, they've got restrictions. They're not ordering food, then the people that make the food, there's a whole chain of things. So it's going to affect everybody. Right now,
they're going to go out of business, though. That's the thing. They're just going to go out of business.
Yeah, it's just destroying everything. And it's going to be this communist style. All the artists are getting shut down. It's going to be like a universal credit. They're doing that in Spain, whereby the government will pay out money to do the government job, so everyone will feel safe and secure, but all working for the government. No creativity, no independence, that type of thing.
All right. Well, I know that in New York, that 90% of all the restaurants in New York City can't pay their rent right now.
I've seen a video of New York where this guy was driving along and literally everything was boarded up. It was like street after street of just things boarded up. It was like a ghost town. It was incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy what they're doing. Around where I live, of course, you have people setting up tents in the parking lots to do whatever. I just actually saw this yesterday. I mean, I've seen it before, but it's becoming more and more common now. You'll have rows of little restaurants and whatever nail salon, and they'll have each one of these things will have a tent out front in the parking lot. And I'm thinking these people are paying a very expensive rent
Yeah,
for those decor, there's everything, and they're out in a tent.
yeah.
They've reduced us to a third world, completely third world economy practically, and yet they're saying now you can't use cash, right? We're cavemen,
Yeah.
practically. It's crazy.
So what do you think though? People talk about, we've got to get the economy back up and all this stuff, but ultimately, isn't the economy run by them? Isn't the whole point, this
Well, they
monetary
don't want it
system?
up. We don't have a choice in this. I mean, obviously,
Well,
you know, we,
this is the future of humanity. This, like the old normal, was that a good thing? Everyone going to work in this economy thing that was all fictitious anyway, and it's all like a big house of cards ready to fall at some point.
mhm.
Basically, that style of exchange is like, like what do they call him? Michael Tellinger has the Ubuntu voluntary type thing. Is that not a better mode for humanity to aim towards in the future, at least? Why
Michael
can't we come
Tellinger
yeah, that's
with his
well. He's behind.
Ubuntu and all that
Well,
stuff.
Ubuntu happened before. Yeah, he's I believe took that on. It's an old idea. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with that. I'm just talking about the principle behind voluntarism and people, helping each other and doing things for the good
Well,
of.
obviously that is just that's just a local a local way of describing a STO, service to others
Yeah,
system, which is what we should do. So yes, Ubuntu is just uh, a one culture's way of describing that sort of
correct.
society, and they did that particular society. You could almost say that these primitives that were exposed to this technology, exposed to these concepts by extraterrestrials or whatever, were like a test bed to see how this system would work in this world with humans of any of one degree or another, and and ultimately, yeah, the whole system has to go that way. But let me just say this before we get into the whole love and light service to others thing. Obviously, yes, this is our objective, but just from focusing on the UK for a minute, because the United States has a lot of issues, and certainly the racial issues are one of the issues that they're pushing on us really hard right now. They're doing this across the whole country in various different levels. But over here in this country, most of that has to do with the slavery, the use of slaves over 100-year period or whatever it was, and the formation and the start and finishing of the Civil War and all the players that were involved. And ultimately, when you get down to it, you can't if you're not paying attention. You got to see the Rothschilds and their control over the entire issue. And the thing is from an American perspective, this country, and it's really sickening to me when I watch popular movies or listen to the crap that they teach the children about the founding fathers and why this country was started, and they think it has something to do with the king and taxation when it has absolutely nothing to do with that and everything to do with the Bank of England and the Rothschild family and technically and their interference with our ability to print our own money, which has been a constant thing since Jefferson on in and Alexander Hamilton, etc. And this is the basis of the Federal Reserve of the fiat currency system. And for this country, when it first started, prior to having its colonial revolution, was a pretty wealthy concern because it didn't have the fiat currency and it had a money system that was very fair and didn't allow for any sort of uh, speculation and this sort of thing. It was a very
Usury.
there was no usury, of course, but there was no speculation, which is even more important. There's no value added bullshit going on. It was all continuous flow of money. People weren't hoarding the resources, and the resources were constantly turning over, and this is why it was very productive. But the Bank of England, of course, put an end to that. So technically, we've been at war here in this country with the Bank of England since day one, since before it was even a country. And when I look back at how they were able to gain so much power, and how, especially in the UK, post Waterloo, how they were allowed to pretty much take over everything and own everything. And then, of course, in Scotland, obviously the fight for independence and everything's going on. I mean, being Irish, obviously I have my own bitches about the treatment of the people in London on that part of the country. But so I can't understand why, as men, there's not more action being taken. It's like you're saying, you talk about this, what they're doing with this damn. It's like, come on, they're going to cut you off from alcohol at 6 o'clock. If that isn't a reason to go to war immediately, I'm shocked to think that it's not happening instantaneously. I mean, it's crazy. I can't believe it. Okay, no more drink after 6 o'clock. Look, sun's out. What are we gonna do for the rest of the night? I don't know. Jerk off. God, man.
Basically, these things have a lot of power, don't they? People are kind of pacified by these quite a lot.
I don't have one. I don't.
Just in the power that they have, and obviously they're even doing things like they're making football. They've still got no fans in the stadium, and they're going to suggest pay-per-view for football games. So guys, the whole point of going to a match or something was to socialise with your friends and have that day-out experience. So just to watch an empty stadium
and what have you, right?
The 22 guys, what was the main objective? The day out with your friends, or was it to watch where the ball goes? They've turned it into just purely where the ball goes,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, mix the testosterone.
Well,
but again, bottom line is I look at what's going on in this country, and it goes right back to the UK and the Rothschilds, because that's where, in the Bank of England, that's where their basis is, and that's the entity that needs to be taken out. And even if you look at all people like, the Vatican and all these guys, the Templars and Jesuits and all this, ultimately, you're going to get back to the Magna Carta, and you're going to get back to the Bank of England, and
wasn't it Lord
it's up to you guys to fix it over there.
Well, I'll come back to that. Well, first of all, wasn't it Lord Rothschild that said, I care not who makes the rules of a country, give me control of the country's money, and I'll control the country, basically.
Yeah, but he said quite a few nasty things, to be honest.
What do you think of Lincoln and JFK? They both were attributed with trying to bring greenbacks back into circulation, and they both got assassinated. Do you think they were both, the heroes that they're claimed to be, or do you think there's obviously,
well, it doesn't matter. Humans are humans, okay? So if you want to spend your time picking apart somebody's foibles, you could do that with me. You could pick apart all my nasty shit. Only thing, I'm not trying to hide it. That's why you can't use it against me. But obviously, yes, if you start with Lincoln, okay, once again, you got to go back to the Rothschilds. And you got to remember is that both administrations, the North and the South, had massive amounts of Rothschild infiltration and control. On the North relied heavily on Rothschild banking. In the South, the Rothschilds were so ingrained into the system that the president of the Confederacy, Jefferson Davis, his number 2 man in his think tank and brains behind the throne, was a Jew named Judah P. Benjamin, who basically was a Rothschild hand-picked agent that was put there to set up this country for this civil war. And all the propaganda and all of the muckraking and the media work that went into creating the American Civil War, again, was no different than the controlled media that we have today doing the same thing, telling us that, Black Lives Matter, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of people think, apparently Lincoln was, for setting the slaves free, but I think Larkin Rose done a video about the plantation whereby, they had the slaves who were actually better off when they were slaves, and when it became to actually being workers, they had the same conditions.
Well, let's not go there. I mean, if you really want to go there, then I'm going to have to expound upon that in great length. And I don't know where do you want to start, but before you talk about slavery, let's go back to the greenbacks, which were basically when Lincoln realized that the Rothschilds, what they were doing, playing both sides against each other like that, and he realized that the American money was being completely fucked over by this fiat currency. He said, screw this, we got to come up with something else. And that's when he developed his silver-backed currency, or his gold-backed currency, whatever it was, his It's not even as good as colonial dollars. That's even better. But anyway, yes, he created that system so they could generate revenue. In other words, he printed money. He basically said,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to authorize Congress or whatever the Treasury Department to print up X, $1 billion or X million dollars. That was put into the economy, and they used that for the purchase of weapons, et cetera, et cetera. They didn't have to get it from the fucking Rothschilds, and they did not have to pay interest on it. So
Is that not
that
what
was a
Hitler
big
done?
deal. Well, Hitler did the same thing, but we also got to get back to Kennedy. But before we could get back to Kennedy, we got to talk about a little bit more about this slavery issue. And you have to understand, first of all, if when you look at the slaves coming in, cotton had a lot to do with it, but the actual transportation of the slaves was really the key issue here. If you take out the transport, there's no slavery. Now, it's very simple to look at that because the records for who owned the ships that were used to transport slaves are still out there today. You could go back and you could research this information. I actually did. And I found that every single damn one of those boats was owned by a Jewish person. Okay? So that should tell you something. Now, when slavery, or not slavery, but the importation of slaves from Africa and the West Indies was made illegal. You could no longer legally take ships and bring people in from these countries into the United States. That doesn't mean that the United States, the U.S., and the Caribbean were not still using slaves, but the point is that they had to go to a domestic production, which means they set up two big slave farms, Virginia and Georgia, I believe it was, where they were able to mass produce, there was so much screwing going on. They were producing so many black babies. They provided all the slaves for the entire country for the duration. So in other words, after a certain period of time, there were no more boats bringing in slaves. It was completely a breeding ground for being here in the United States, and most of the slaves that are out there, that's where they really came from. And they're doing the same thing underground. They've been working at doing this underground. It's the same damn game. The slavery stuff has never stopped. Sure, they can kidnap people just like they did when they brought people over on the boats, but the ideal situation is to have enough of those kidnapped people to where you can just breed them. But then you got to come up with stuff like love, affection, nurturing, mother's milk, all that sort of thing. But thanks to Bill Gates, he's been working very hard. Him, Bezos, and I believe Zuckerberg have been putting massive amounts of money in developing synthetic mother's milk. Why do you suppose that is? That's just one little thing. But as far as Lincoln and Kennedy are concerned, back to Kennedy, Kennedy did the same damn thing. He not only did he call out the Zionists, not only did he call out the New World Order, he may have been one of them, but so what? He still went to a silver-backed currency that lasted, a month, a week, something like that, before they killed him?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's the job. But no, that's not how the American economy worked with a colonial dollar. The colonial dollar was something where the government would issue money as was required, but it was a system where speculation, in other words, you didn't put money in the bank, you didn't save money, you spent it. It came in, you spent it. But if you needed money, it was given to you. That's how the system worked. And it would start at the bottom. If a manufacturer needed to make something and he needed money to start the process by making goods, the government supplied that money. The goods were created, they sold the goods, people bought the goods, and went down the line. And if there was a shortcoming in one place or another, the government took care of it. And they printed the money, and they removed the money, and they kept just enough money in the system so that the system did not become what it is today. Okay, and then the bottom line is, if you look at like the gold that the Queen has stashed away in those vaults, that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. That gold sitting in those vaults does nothing. Somebody with a big bank account with lots of zeros, that money in that account is doing nothing. Okay. It might as well not even be there.
Yeah, the whole point of government, if we were to have a true government, is to be like a service corporation, essentially, and they should be helping us to facilitate, these things in the best way possible and have as little influence over us as possible, rather than draconian measures. They're there to serve us, is what I'm saying. And they're not doing their job right now. Somehow they've changed from,
People should be
we
responsible.
yeah, that's true. That's the reason why there is a government, because we don't govern ourselves. That's why I keep mentioning this every talk. I always turn it back onto the people. I'll say, look, they're setting up this thing. They're making offers. It's up to us. Are we accepting those offers? Even putting on the news, that's an offer. 9 o'clock, BBC News, come and watch us. You make the choice to watch that and get that programme. So, we have to be more careful in our consciousness and what we let into it.
That's true, because you get back to this government thing. Ultimately, I'm gonna go back to a monarchy, a daddy figure, and if all the kids act like grown-ups, then daddy's cool, and it just doesn't have to act like a daddy, and everybody's responsible, and it works, and everybody loves each other and makes sure that they're not trying to screw over the other person. But in a family, you're not out there. You shouldn't be out there trying to screw over your siblings, and that's really the way it should be. Unfortunately, in a greed-based society, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. I think, again, it's a responsibility of parents to bring up their children correctly. Instead of giving them to the state, that's obviously why they want them at a young age, to manipulate their mind. The same as they've done with the black slaves. They had those children, there's like a clean slate, they can just tell them what they want and give them a false version of their own history. They're doing that in the schools and teaching our children stuff that they want them to know. We should take that responsibility back as parents to teach the things that matter in life, and practical, useful things, instead of just getting bits of paper and shit.
Yeah. Well, if we weren't slaving away for money, I mean, first of all, you look at the feudal days, the feudal society, you realize is that those people only worked 3 or 4 hours a day for their masters, and they ate the same food the king ate, practically.
Yeah. That's
yeah. Well, I mean, it's like it wasn't as bad as we think it was.
Yeah, things are it's crazy the power that they have over us right now with regard to even the food supply. A lot of people are saying that farms are not producing the same, any crop really for next year and stuff like that. So there's going to be a massive shortage. We don't grow our own food. We don't know how to do these things. These are skills that people have been bred out of us, basically, and it's time we got them back, basically.
Well, again, as I've been trying to tell people, is that the famine that they're trying to foist upon us is only really happening in China. Okay, China's just screwed. They've had their floods. Their food crop for next year is gone. It is gone, and it's continuing to deteriorate. And because of the communist government over there, the CCP, they've lied about their situation for so long, and other countries may suffer food shortages because of the effort to try to provide food to the starving Chinese, which there's so many of. So in other words, trying to make up for the CCP's stupidity and correcting the acts of God and what have you that basically destroyed the food over there is going to cause other people to go hungry. And of course, if the Chinese are paying, it's kind of like gas. The food, even though you are a supplier, your prices will go up because supply and demand, someone else is demanding your supply. So unfortunately, I don't believe that. But yeah, they're going to take advantage of, they're going to take advantage of something very real. They're going to make it worse. And well, here in California, we grow about 10% of all the food consumed in the United States. And of course, we have a lot of export, rice, etc. But like, for instance, we've had a big drought. We've had a big heat wave. And just 2 days ago, they dumped a bunch of chemtrails on us. Out of nowhere, we hadn't had this for quite some time. And all of a sudden, here's all these chemtrails. Next thing you know, it's overcast, it's cooling off, and who knows if we're going to have rain. The question is, are they making rain, or are they making it so that it does not rain? And very often, that's what they'll do. They'll actually make it so that it does not rain, and it'll rain somewhere out in the middle of the desert where they don't really need the water. And so yeah, we've got that is a perfect example of why we have these droughts and why we have these food shortages.
In this thing that I sent you, the woman's got this document that was released by 5, I think, French military generals. They've done an analysis of the COVID thing, and part of that was what was I going to say? I forgot.
Electromagnetic war.
Yeah, that's one part of it. Yeah. So basically, what I'm thinking is there, she was saying there's going to be like a mass culling, and there's just going to be a few left, with the microchip and this, and they're going to use the 5G technology, and it's all in place. And basically, a lot of that document is a survival guide for what's actually coming. Do you think it's this basically afoot? There's nothing we can do to stop this, or do you think there's still hope at this point for people to? What can we actually do? Because so many people are turning this into, let's have a web page to support a new Facebook group, or let's make some pictures of this and draw this thing. And what's the practical things people can do right now? Do you think do we have to wake up our fellow man as much as we can? Because you can't get through to a lot of those people, just by talking to them.
Yeah, well, 20 years ago, I was all about guns and high technology and, lasers and death rays and all that kind of stuff. And now it's all about developing your psychic skill. So if you want to stay ahead of this game, you need to turn off your TV, first of all, stop being stupid, and develop your brain. And yes, develop your psychic skill, because ultimately you don't have the money, you don't have the armament, the resources to do what needs to be done, but you do have a brain, and your brain is very powerful if you nurture it and train it. And certainly, if turning off your TV is a very big first step, eating properly, that kind of thing, and yeah, that weapon right there is very big. And then again, if you join up with other people who are doing the same thing, that is going to help you expand even faster and make you even stronger, because obviously as a whole, as a group, we're quite a bit stronger. And so when you say, the frustration, what can we do, and it's hopeless and all that, yada yada, I don't have the luxury of that, because we're just, we're fighting, we're killing. I really think that a lot of the speed with which they're trying to implement these measures has a lot to do with the effectiveness of the stuff that we've been doing. And again, it doesn't do us any good to get upset about what they're doing. We have to work harder at what we're doing. So just a word of advice. Yeah, if you really want to do something, you really got to develop your psychic skills and use that, because that's magic. It's all about the magic.
Just to let people know out there, you actually do make an offer for people if they want to come and join you in your Jedi war battle with these guys. If they send an email, what's your email address again?
Well, the email is law17gun@aol.com. But just be advised that anybody that was interested in that sort of stuff, because I still get messages from people that are interested once in a while. Not so much now, because I'm not on the internet quite as much as I was before, but it helps if you believe in Jesus, obviously. If you don't, you're going to need to work on that. And I'm not suggesting that this is a religion or you need to follow some designated religion. That's not what it is at all. But you do have to recognize certain things. And yes, you do have to take an oath. And what happens after that really is no big deal, because a lot of people think, oh, do I have to take training? Do I have to do this? No, you don't have to do any training whatsoever. You won't even know what's going on. But
because I hear you talk about this. I hear you talk about this quite a lot, and I'm like, well, I asked Stephen about this. He's not asking me to join outright, but the invitation's there. I'm like, what am I getting involved with? My life's already crazy enough without fighting reptiles.
Life doesn't really. It doesn't really affect you that much. Maybe. Oh, ice cream truck. Maybe you might be your sleep patterns might be a little screwed with. That's mostly it.
You tell me about the 3 o'clock thing. Everyone at 3 o'clock wakes up.
Yeah, everyone seems to wake up at 3 o'clock, 3:30, something like that. I do it a little bit more than that. I don't really know exactly. Seriously, this is the thing. It's like we're so numb right now with it. I know there's stuff going on, and even the smallest thing can tell a lot. Like the experiences we're having right now with the insects, and I can tell that we're kicking ass on the reptiles, because the insects are becoming more prevalent, the gray guys, and that's and some people have suggested that we're making deals with these guys or something like that, but it's not really like that at all. It's just that they haven't really been on the receiving end as much as the reptiles have been, and so they're sort of happy because I suspect that the insects are getting some numerical advantage because of what we've been doing, and they're sort of happy about that. But they'll get theirs eventually. But it's just interesting.
I mean, you're talking about these greys and the reptiles. So when you take this oath, do you then start dreaming about this and seeing this thing happen? Or how can you explain these reptiles and greys and what they're up to? Are you actually seeing it? Is it like an astral projection type lucid dream or something?
There are people that do that, lucid dreamers and what have you, that have do this on their own, and they've been doing it for a while, and they usually remember what they see, and they can, pretty much direct what they do. But a lot of people like that have gotten involved with me or in my group, that kind of stops because, in other words, you have freelancers. Those are the freelancers. Those are the guys that go out and do their own thing. And even if you were, say, like a military trained person, guy, whatever, and you were doing this for them, and then you went off and started doing it on your own for whatever reason, retaliation or whatever. In the early days, when people like that would join up, it didn't really have a lot of effect on their operations. They would just be like under it. Instead of going around by their own, they would be working together as a team. But now, what I do when I bring in the people now, and I'm saying people who aren't trained, they have no experience, whatever, they generally don't remember anything. Okay, they just show up when they show up because there's no time per se. There's no time. In other words, for instance, if you were to join up today, you could be involved in something that we did a long time ago. Like back, we did a big battle back November. It's going to be 3 years this November. Wow, 3 years this November is when we really started doing this stuff.
So you're describing this battle. How do you know? Do you see these things? Other people
I
don't.
See it?
Yeah. How do you know?
Very, very rarely. Okay, very rarely. Only the last time I got a glimpse is when I was kind of pissed off and I was bitching at my altar, Rambo. I was kind of bitching him out because I wanted stuff to go faster. Okay. And I was angry because I was getting frustrated because the stuff was taking so long. And I got a glimpse, okay, of something that I was dealing with. And it was a very short glimpse, but I realized that was like oh yeah, you think so? Well, there you go. I'm like, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? I get it. I don't need this. But I'll tell you what the glimpse was. I was in a cave, and it was really quick, but it was like I was in a cave with some other guy. It was kind of like a rough rock cave, and these two little critters, they came around the corner of this cave. They looked like babies. They were like crawling like babies, but they were kind of like black, and they were like made out of rock or something like that. They looked like they're like lava babies or some shit like that. But one of them started spitting out fire, and I remember I kind of jumped off to the side, and I had an M16. I was blasting this thing in the head, and as the bullets struck the head, it would start to crumple. It died, of course, but it tripped me out, because I knew what was going on. I'm like, but I still jumped out of the way of the fire. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like I knew I wasn't going to get hurt, but I still jumped. I still jumped.
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah, it's like I still jumped. I still shot. And what tripped me out was the way it just sort of died when the bullets hit it, because it sort of hit it right there, and as it hit, it sort of just crumbled apart and broke up. It's like it was chipping away, and it just sort of,
you've like still got the old magic. You don't need a laser. You're that accurate.
Well, it's it was close quarters. It was like right there, like right. Kind of a thing. But the only time, one time I remember way back in 3 years ago in when we first started doing this, the way it all started was it had kind of built up for a while, and there was a lot of frustration. And I had a radio show, and we had a bunch of people that by this time were starting to get involved in this effort, remote viewers and stuff. And we got really kind of, I got to this point where the frustration levels got to a point where everything just sort of exploded. And when that happened is when we did our first big attack. This is the thing is, up to that point, we were doing negotiation. When we went in there and would go down there, we would negotiate with them, and we would basically say, hey, you should give up, you should join the family, come back, stop doing this stuff, that kind of thing. And that went on for a little while, the whole love and light approach. And of course, like I said, I was getting very frustrated. And one night we just exploded, and we went in there and killed everything. But all I remember is laying there in bed one night and hearing this voice says, it's time. And then I could see myself basically grabbing a couple of guns, and one of them was an MP5 and the other one was like an M16. And then I grabbed some ammo. I had an ammo box set there. I opened up the ammo box. It was all 9mm. So I said, guess it's going to be the MP5. So I threw the MP5 in a bag with the ammo, and that's all I remember.
Yeah.
And then a couple days later, that went for about 3 days. That particular operation went for about 3 days, 3 or 4 days. I don't know how long, but it was from our standpoint, it went up for about 3 or 4 days because I spent a lot of time in bed when that was going on. And I talked to these other guys who were, young Jedi dudes. And one of them was kind of into the stuff, and he remembered everything. So he told, I go, hey man, what the hell's going on? What did we do? He said, well, yada yada. He told me the whole story from the elevator on down.
So you're having shared experiences in those dreams.
Well, there are certain things. I always know. Okay, I have certain questions that I ask people. Like, did you see this? Did you see that? And I know whether or not they were there because if they saw the. Because I know what's there. So if they see the same thing, then I know that they were there. Like different people, there's certain people that are always there. Like Rambo, of course. All right, it doesn't really matter at this point, but Rambo has a Sosha who's always there, usually a woman. So that's why I ask if they met Rambo and see if there's anyone else. They go, yeah, there's this woman there, yada yada, and they describe the woman. It's like they can describe the woman. I know they were there.
All right. And this there, like, is it like you going down the Getty and fighting these guys, or is it like some other dimension, another place? Does it have a physical equivalent, or is it just a place in the 4D that doesn't have a place in the 3D?
Well, that's a good point because people have to understand that these different places, these different densities, not dimensions. Dimensions work the same way, but densities also work the same way. It is the same place. It is the same place. For instance, in the Getty, it's not just made for this level. It's made for other levels too. All right. Now they don't always operate quite the same. Like, for instance, the 4D is going to be a little higher up physically than the 3D. But it's like they're 3 or 4 feet up higher, kind of. But in other words, if you're going to go through a lock, if you have to open a door, you have to go through a lock. You have to open it up on all these different levels. So it's pretty trippy. Okay, when they made this stuff, they made it. I mean, you got to understand, if you're a demon, if you're Lucifer or whatever, and you're building this domain, and in this domain you're going to interact with lower levels, and these lower levels are going to interact with other lower levels, that's exactly what's going on. Okay, we talk about the elites interacting with the Draco, but who do the Draco interact with? It's a pyramid. And if you go up the pyramid, you're going to get to Satan, and there's even Lilith is in there too, and we're going to be dealing with her before too long. But so it's complex.
Just again, for people who again might be watching you for the first time, because I was doing another talk in Edinburgh today, and I done that poem the time I was coming. Obviously, I mentioned the Getty at the end of that. It was actually quite good. There was a guy set it up quite well before I got on, and he was talking about the underground tunnels and the reptiles and stuff.
Yeah.
But he then went on to say that they were all getting cleared out, and Donald Trump's the guy to thank for that. So, but apart from
Shit.
that, he set me up quite good. And then I talked about the Getty. But
That's
anyway,
such horrendous crap. God.
I know, because it gives people, he says, this is why the lockdowns are happening. Basically, they're in the tunnels. That's why Wales got shut down. This is why England got shut down. And I've heard this and I've heard that, And I'm like, well, where's the evidence of any of this? So, what was I going to say?
They always take credit for that which their enemy is doing. You notice?
Yeah.
It's like, yes, our city is burning, but we're doing that. We're actually doing that. Those bombs are dropping on us. Those are our bombs. Yeah. Those chemtrails, those are anti-chemtrails. Those are Donald Trump. Those 5G towers, they have Kofifi shielding that gets rid of the bad Chinese radiation, only lets the good American radiation out.
Yeah. Magnetism will
Yeah,
save the world.
USA.
MAGA.
Gaga. Gaga.
Yeah, what was I talking about there?
Donald Trump saving the world.
Oh, yeah, that guy, set up.
Tunnels.
So anyway, I talked about that. Yeah, I want to get back to the Getty. Can you explain to people, again, I know you've done it many times, but the Getty, it took so long to build, it's got so much concrete in it. What is the Getty? Why should people be paying attention to that place in particular, and what is underneath there, and the whole Occupy the Getty thing?
Well, remember a little while ago, you may have heard about it, they had this thing where they were going to occupy Area 51. They're going to get all these people. They're going to charge in the area. Okay. All right. What did they think was at Area 51?
Well, we were thinking UFOs. Most people think that, don't they? And some aliens.
And probably all kinds of other crazy stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, stuff we're not supposed to know about.
No children, just UFOs. Yeah. No human slave cap.
That's a big
UFOs.
thing I should stress to people. It's not so much going under the Getty, first of all, for the reptiles. It's actually, Stephen, has put out there quite a few times that there's 100,000 sex slaves under there that get continuously used, and more get brought in through child trafficking, and they're kept in cages, and that's what these demons and stuff are feeding off. So the main priority, obviously, if there's a child suffering and we know about it, we should have that responsibility.
The humans eat the babies too, they eat each other.
But is it not the hybrid humans who have that kind of more reptile gene within them?
Here's the thing. One of the this is how stupid people are. When you tell them there's 100,000 children down there, they're like, "Oh, how do you feed 100,000 children?" Same way a Ponzi scam works. You feed them to each other.
Yeah.
When they get used and abused, and there's carcass left over, what do you think they do with that carcass? They feed it to the rest of them.
Yes, this must be unbelievable. You can't even begin to imagine. It's just this Q thing, they're making a big deal out of this, and they're getting everybody sympathised, and it's like, trust the plan. We're back in March, and nothing happened in these tunnels. What's happened to that story? Why are we constantly going on about where's the children? What happened to the tunnels and all this stuff? Because some people still think that Hillary's out the picture, and the Hollywood elites are out the picture and stuff like that. They've been taken down. And
here's a good point. All these people are talking about tunnels and stuff like that. I mean, first of all, let's talk about the word tunnel. Okay, these tunnels are made by big machines.
They're huge. It's unbelievable.
Right.
The picture you see, the person's there and the tunnel things.
Some of them are 200-foot diameter, right? I mean, they're just ridiculous. And the point is that excuse me, these things have to be made by companies, and they have to be purchased. Now, half of these tunnel boring machines, at least in the USA, will say something like U.S. Air Force on the side of it or something like that. And so it's like, it's like it's really fuzzy. You got these big corporations that are making these things. You've got these military entities that are supposedly using these things for supposed continuity of government operations or defensive purposes. But the point is that it's so convenient for all these idiots to suggest that some evil cabal has taken over these assets that supposedly were created by the government for government purposes with trillions of dollars that were somehow found and secretly delivered into this black budget. No one asks the right questions. They never ask, how did the money get into the black budget? Where did that money come from? I can tell you where it comes from. They never asked, who are these companies? Who runs these companies? Who owns these companies? Who owns this stuff that they built down there? Who has oversight? Nobody. And first of all, talk about continuity of government. There's no continuity of government when you're operating underground because there's no borders underground. It's not the same world as there is on the surface. So the bottom line is that the NSA is the government agency that was responsible here in the U.S. for all the modern production of these things and in the UK. And they were created during the Ronald Reagan era as part of a secret mafia organization, otherwise known as Intertel, which was based on the resources of Lucky Luciano and massive amounts of money from the Crown that was distributed through these mobsters through a $10 trillion slush fund. So the point is that that's the enemy. And we know who Q is. We know that Q is the NSA. The NSA is still operating. They're operating in all these countries. Even in the UK, if you have a security agreement, which you signed after World War II, that means the NSA essentially controls the country. Because that's the treaty. That's what the treaty says. That if you have a bunker in your country run by the NSA, that basically means the NSA is in control of your country. And this is a criminal operation that was set up by the Crown. Yeah. So in other words, when you have Donald Trump, running around saying, or these fools that think that somehow Donald Trump has a secret organization that's crushing the cabal and freeing the children, they are the cabal. They are the people that have been kidnapping and raping and eating the children. They are those people. And Donald Trump was the CEO of Resorts International, which is one of the major assets of Intertel and the flagship of the entire Caribbean operation that is responsible for the NSA.
So in other words, you're saying there's these huge corporations that built all this network, they've got all this facilities down there. How can this small group, just Trump, pop up, become president, have a team, and take all this down without somebody kind of saying, "Oi, that's your stuff, pal"?
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous to say. This is like going into the mafia and complaining about the mafia, and then the mafia says, "You know what? We're fighting the mafia, and we've almost defeated it." It's like,
yeah,
it's that stupid. It's that stupid. People are believing it.
Government's going to save us from government.
Yeah, really. The very people that built the damn bunkers and kidnapped the children and are raping and eating the children are telling us that they're taking over the bunkers, destroying them, and freeing the children that we never see. We never see any proof of any of this. So it's like it just goes back into the dark where they wanted it all along. And yet, here I am. Okay?
Do you think a lot
these
of these
motherfuckers still don't have the balls to come after me? Bottom line. Seriously, these pussy-ass, wimpy-ass, seriously, these bastards, when I was dealing with the NSA years ago, they thought they were so fucking tough. These big burly dudes like, oh, you never seen combat. You're just a weak little da-da-da. But it's their asses that went running, It's their asses that are afraid, okay? They're the ones that are dying, not me. And when I came out and when Boston went down and I said, shit, that was Kraft International, and I told the whole world that was a false flag perpetrated by a government-run mercenary operation, those are some of the biggest, baddest killers in the world. And yet, do they come and fuck with me? Nah. Where are those pussies today? They're hiding outside of the country. Fuck them. 20 years now, I've been waiting for those pussies to do something, and this is why I do what I do. This is why I tell all their secrets, because they don't have the balls to do anything about it. And there you go.
And you're answering your calling, I think, really. I think you had some kind of calling whereby you're going to do what's right a long time ago.
Yeah, but if you knew that they couldn't kill you, what would you do? Would you use it? Would you, right?
Yeah. Why would Stephen basically has had quite a number of threats or attempts on his life, and people have not managed to do that for one reason or another, maybe had an accident or something happened to stop that, and someone from, was it the NSA or someone told you that you can't be killed essentially, and you are the guy that's going to lead the charge into the Getty at some point.
That was the trust fund manager for the Getty that said that.
Okay, so were you speaking to him personally?
Yeah, we were having dinner.
Okay.
My brother was sitting there, this other guy.
Yeah. So what is your involvement on the ground with the Getty? Obviously, I've seen a video of you wandering around the grounds there. They must be quite familiar with you and, not too keen for you to walk around with a camera.
Yeah. Well, if I go there, well, I haven't been there in a little while, but it used to be they would, have somebody follow me around and stuff. It's just a museum, that's all. I'm not doing anything other than looking at the art and stuff, but I was very interested in the architecture because back in the day we were planning an assault, and it was like a target, and I wanted to, it was like a fortress that you're trying to assault. So, and they treat it like that too. They know it is, and this is what they're expecting. They're expecting an assault, but that's what they were expecting from me.
But I thought they built it thinking that no one would ever find out about it, but they think just in case somebody finds out about it. So you're saying they built it like some kind of castle thing. It's got a moat as well, I think. They could...
Well, they knew that sooner or later somebody's going to find out about it. That's why it's so heavily armed and stuff and what have you. But yeah, okay. And to answer your earlier question, why this one is so special as opposed to all these other bases, it's because of that exact reason right there. It's not supposed to be a base.
Why did they build it? Why put that, create a weak spot like that? How is it not supposed to be a base? I thought that was the intention behind it.
Because the job of it, its base's function is to collect art. This every base has a job. This particular base, its job is to act as a repository for Western culture, as like it's the portion of Noah's Ark where they store all of the treasure.
Ah, okay.
That's what this is.
So you're saying it's luxury down there, and basically that's where the Queen
and treasure. It's the treasure vault.
Right.
Okay. It's the New World Order's treasure vault.
So why put the treasure vault in a precarious position that's quite, public?
Why is it precarious?
People have been, can get access and have seen it. It's like,
can they?
Well, to a certain extent, it's out in the open. And it's, why
only
not
if
just
they find out about it, right?
Somewhere else that nobody knows about.
Under a military base, under an airport, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
Under the White House, maybe. Under Buckingham Palace, maybe.
Area 51.
Area 51 has already been kind of. There's other bases very similar. Area 51.
So a place in Australia that's quite big. That some people say.
Yeah, one of the biggest ones of all is in Australia. Yes, of course.
Right in the middle there.
Alice Springs, I believe. Yeah.
I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Jesus, basically, because you said there to be a Jedi you have to have this belief in Jesus, and last week you were asking me to pray to Jesus and things. What is your personal...
And things?
Well, pray, and you told me to do something else, ask for help or something. What is your relationship with Jesus? Do you pray regularly? Do you... how is Jesus in your life? Why you think he's a great commander of like the universe, essentially?
Well, because he is. He is. That's what he is. That's his job. That's one way that you can get to know him. Well, I'll just give you an example. When you're doing the astral stuff, and I'm not talking about the Jedi stuff. I'm talking about freelance type of thing. If you're out there doing a freelance thing, and you run into some creepy thing, what are you going to do? They're going to eat you up. And Jesus really is your only protection. A lot of people think that, I'm going to go pray to Archangel Michael or the spirits of my ancestors or whatever. That's all good, but Jesus is better. It's just the way it is. And if you're going to do something, you want to do it the best way, especially if you want to have a weapon. That's the best weapon. Okay, seriously, that's just the best weapon. As far as being a commander, he is. That's just his job. It's just like densities. The reality of densities is a reality, just as much as Jesus is part of that reality. For instance, the level number 7, that's, let's see, 79. Yeah, that's his level, and he's kind of the boss of that level. And that doesn't mean he's the only one there. They're all there. Buddha, all the ascended masters are on level 7. But he just happens to be the boss. It's just the way it is.
So see they've got the Bible Belt of America, it's like good and evil, isn't it? It's like they got the rockers and the drinkers and the hellraisers or the Christians, and it's quite great. I've seen a few documentaries of those towns, and it looks pretty desperate life. But see those people, they're kind of ordinary working class hicks or whatever, and they believe in Jesus so strongly.
Hicks?
Are they? You know what I mean?
Hicks.
Hillbillies.
Bible stompers.
Yeah. So the Jesus they pray to is very much part of the organized religion. Would you say that's the same Jesus as the spiritual Jesus you're talking about, or is religion and the church confused these things somehow to
Yes.
get us to pray to a false Jesus essentially?
I don't know if is there money involved. That's a good that should tell you something.
Yeah.
There's usually money involved, right? Well, I mean, my God, you could go once again. You can go back to Constantine. You can go back to the Council of Nicaea. You can go back to all these infiltrations and corruptions. Martin Luther, et cetera, all the way down the line. It's a fragmentation and it's a control thing. And sure, there's good conscientious things out there amongst all of it, but certainly this using it as a control structure is what it is. And it's just like Karl Marx said, it is a great opiate for the masses. But at the same time, you have to understand that there's a thing that people need in their lives, and that is spirituality. And most people don't have that. And this is where they get it. And also, from an energetic standpoint, a lot of effort is put out into trying to minimize humans' ability to interact energetically. And in a situation like a worship type situation, whatever it is, where people are putting their intentions towards a spiritual thing as opposed to a physical thing, they're going to be generating a certain amount of energy, and they're going to be sharing that energy, and it's going to be beneficial to all of these people. And that's really the only way you're going to get that. So obviously, without looking at the details of what they're doing to get this, this activity, I would say that overall it's a good thing. Okay, and this is the thing, is that
if it stops them from drinking and having not drinking,
no,
abusing
drinking.
themselves.
There's nothing. Abuse is one man's abuse is another man's exercise. And see, the thing is you got to understand that which makes you calm is good. Whatever it is that gets you to where you need to get, that's a good thing. And everybody needs a church. And for some people, that's watching TV. For some people, that's drinking. For some people, that's a football game, whatever. But they're going to get it. And the point is that the bad guys, the corrupting forces, will try to provide that for you in a way that is going to be unproductive. Like, for instance, the media, they're going to pump out comic books or TV or sporting events or these sort of things, because they're going to give you all these alternatives to choose rather than something uplifting to get this fix that you need, the spiritual, energetic fix. So in other words, the humans have always had this. It's just that it's been corrupted and it's been controlled. And it's really up to the human to break that programming, to understand that that's happening, and then it can move in a different direction. And ultimately, that can be traumatic. Obviously, a lot of times, a waking up. In other words, you could mean you have to lose everything. You have to lose your family, all your friends, your money, etc. You're going through this big trauma, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, now I can have a different outlook, perspective on life, and you can get this thing.
Well, sometimes you have to lose stuff before you can let new things grow, basically.
Well, sure. Well, you become complacent, right? But
yeah.
but if you're subject to some sort of programming, then it's up to you to do something to break that programming.
Choose wisely. Choose wiser. Yep. So, things like mass meditation as well, that's been proven to have like an effect on the maybe, I don't know, domestic violence and things like that. If lots of people kind of concentrate on it. So that shows you the power that we do have that we're not actually using, that you were talking about before, like the power of the mind to bring that back to us. Yeah.
Huge power. Nuclear. We're nuclear. No, we really are. We really are. We put out, I don't know what the exact number is, but magnetic. Oh gosh, there's a when you measure a magnetic field.
Just a toroidal field kind of thing.
No, yeah, a toroidal field, but any kind of a field. I'm looking for the exact word. I can't think of it, but it's the measure of this is done in units of Tesla. The scientific community came up with a increment for measuring this phenomena, and they call it a Tesla unit. Now, let's say you were to take the Earth's magnetic field, the Van Allen belt, the thing that makes the aurora borealis and all that. They would measure that. Basically, what they do is they measure the field between the waves. It's actually like a wave. It's just like surfing. It's like a wave. I think it's coherence. Oh gosh, I can't remember the exact word. Sorry, but dog wants in. But the thing is that the Earth puts out huge amounts of this energy, and the human body does the same thing. With our little toroidal field, it's very similar, and we all put out this energy, and when we work together, and we share an intention, that's the key word here, which is a desire to have some idea, some information. We all share that idea. Then our power is combined, and then each one of our outputs, our Tesla output, becomes combined, and then we can actually become like a extremely powerful force. And they're so worried about that actually happening. I'll give you an example. If you've ever driven down the street at night and you were daydreaming or something, thinking about something, you ever notice that a street light might turn off? Maybe one or two street lights will turn off in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay, what that is actually the pillar of light coming out of your head. Okay? You have this visualization thing going on in your head, and you're beaming. You got this big glow. And that is enough to basically shut that light off, because the photosensor is picking that thing up just as if it was daylight. Okay, right. And you'll notice when this happens that usually the light will be about 45 degrees directly in front of your forehead right there when this happens. Now, I still do that. I used to do that. I'm still very strong, but I used to do that so bad I would like every light on the street. Every light would turn off. You go like that. And one time I was in the parking lot trying to change the oil in my truck, and just a parking lot, regular parking lot. I had a light over my head. I'm trying to see what I'm doing. The light kept turning off. I'm like, come on now, jeez. But that is an example of that energy. And the point is that if we could ever get to the point to where we can learn to control that, imagine. Now I know a lot of people, let's just say that there are large groups of people out there that know about this skill and work on this skill. And the CIA has certainly been on top of them for some time. They used to be considered an enemy. And now, of course, they're actually trying to pursue people like that and work with them. But these kind of people can do things like, for instance, shut down a power grid, take a transformer and make that transformer stop working, or something like that. These are just tiny little skills that we're remembering how to do, how to basically affect the reality around us, how to manipulate electromagnetic fields with our mind, things like these. These are very, very simple skills. This is alchemy, and this is also what we call magic. This is the nature of it. And yes, mass meditation, that's exactly what that is. And if you look at, for instance, the group Falun Gong in China, those guys that have been persecuted so badly over there, there was a time when there was like 10,000 of them that basically did a mass meditation around the Communist Party headquarters living facilities or something of this nature. And all they were doing was generating loving intention and directing it towards the Communist Party. And the Communist Party, they just freaked out over that. I mean, they weren't doing anything. They're just sitting there meditating, but that was enough to basically order the execution of every single one of them.
Oh, the cockroaches.
And that should give you an idea of just how powerful it is when that many people get together and do this. And this is one of the things this is a component of the Occupy the Getty movement, too. Obviously, the idea of getting a whole bunch of people on top of the Getty on the property was so that we could all generate thoughts right below us and we would be going to war with those psychics, because remember, they've got personnel on site just for that purpose. And my original intention, before I even came up with the Occupy the Getty concept, was to just gather up as many psychics and talented people that I could find and converge on the Getty. We were going to have a psychic field trip, and we were just going to sit there and go to town with their little Nazi psychics that they have working there. So it's always, this stuff's been going on for a long time. And the thing is that, everyone thinks it's all about guns and bullets and all this crap. No, it's not. If you haven't woken up to the power of the psychic skill and the phenomenon and stuff that's out there that everyone scoffs at and thinks is a silly conspiracy, the guys that really run everything laugh at you, and they think you're just a stupid animal because you're not bright enough to figure this stuff out, or you've allowed your body to be so corrupted that you can't even do simple magic.
Well, in the Matrix, it's got the spoon that bends and says, "First, remember there is no spoon," and that shows the power of the mind.
Well, what is there? It's a hologram. It's a hologram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, today I went to another protest gathering, shall we say, not a protest gathering, a meeting.
They shut you down. They tried to shut you down.
The thing is, the day before in the national newspaper, there was a big warning that the police had made a statement, they were going to be there and they're going to come down heavily on the mask wearers, obviously putting fear into people to attend in this event. And just when they did get there was police vans all full of police, but I'll give them their due, they did stay well back. But when people were talking, first of all, in the newspaper it said, don't go to this march, you should stay at home and protest digitally, which isn't quite the same thing as that power of people coming together. And you can feel the energy, when somebody's telling their story, it connects with you in a much more visceral kind of level when it's coming from the heart and your heart's connecting to their emotion, it hits you much more deeply. And the inspiring thoughts as well can lift you more, and the crowd all cheering in unison, it's something they agree with. And you're being with like-minded people who are creative and thinking about life. That's what all life should be. We should all be kind of talking openly about everything, rather than, there's a very big division these days with the mask wearers, and everyone else. So there's like an internal war going in with that as well.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we need to start wearing a mask that has some sort of protest, Occupy the Getty on it, really piss everybody off, make that really big. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
What I was going to say is, sorry.
We need a better way to respond to this stuff.
Yeah, just like, this is the point, though. We should be aiming to improve ourselves so much that we start moving as a species towards the 4D and 5D to raise our vibration up. Therefore, we can kind of overtake their suppressing us, because they're not trying to hold us down energetically in this field, whereby maybe if we collectively think about raising our consciousness, could we change our outer reality? Because exactly, our outer reality is a construct of our inner world. Essentially we see what's in the inside of our head. So if we change our vibration, would we be able to be more, again, lucid dreaming, or a different type of reality would come into being, and we would essentially overtake?
Well, just to answer your question quickly, that's like saying, okay, if I develop my psychic skills, what is the first thing that's going to happen? What powers am I going to get? How are these skills going to help me do this or that? The number one benefit of having these skills in any degree whatsoever is that the words that come out of your mouth will ring true and will reverberate and resonate with everyone that hears them. And you will have influence and ability to influence that you did not have. And that's the biggest benefit right there. I mean, sure, you could heal, you can know what people are thinking, you could, do all these things. But the thing that you really want to, the number one reason for even having these skills is so that you can influence, and by that I mean preferably you're going to be able to teach people these things that they need to learn, and the thing they need to learn is service to others, because these skills come as a result of service to others, and it's through service to others that you increase these skills and enhance your abilities. So certainly using your skills to teach people about service to others is only going to make you stronger.
This is the thing about service to others. It's not totally selfless, because actually doing the service to others, you get the rewards back for doing that service naturally, rather than set a price on them or whatever, basically, in theory anyway. I've been doing a lot of service to others and got nothing back. I'm owed quite a lot, but
Oh, well, monetarily, yeah, that's true. I mean, my God, I don't even want to think about how much I've been owed over this. Like, you get over it. Trust me, you get over it. When it gets over, oh my God, what's the most money you've ever had somebody owe you?
Oh, I've never had that much money to lose. But basically, I was talking about in general, not so much the money, but
okay.
I've had money taken off me. I'm like you. I don't know. I lend people money. I give things. You never see them back. I think people take advantage of you quite easily, and they don't. You think they will treat you the same, but they don't. They have, and people in general, they're quite selfish.
Well, if you are,
you could be naive.
Okay,
basically.
to be service to others is to give gravity, and to be service to self is to consume gravity. So if you're a gravity giver, you're going to attract people that consume gravity. That's just, if you're a service to others person, you will attract people who want to be served.
Okay.
That's just the way it is.
But should there not be
those are the ones that need that need the most help too, right? Jesus and the lepers or the sinners and whatnot, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I keep on. There's no point serving when you're expecting something in return. You have to serve unconditionally. But if somebody, I think, wrongs you or starts to disrespect you, I think you have to draw a line to protect your own kind of boundaries a little bit.
Yeah, unfortunately, that comes with territory. But at the same time, you got to remember, mathematically speaking, I like to think that if you have a lot of people that love you, you're going to have at least 1% of the people out there that are going to hate you, at least. Yeah. Maybe more, 10%. Who knows? 50-50. Come on, I don't think so. Well, that's just you. They just hate you. Come on. So it's your shirts. That's it. It's got to be your shirts, man.
Yeah, I've had a lot of abuse from them over the years, from a dress sense in general.
Really? Wait a minute. Who's been harassing you? What?
Oh, I've had abuse from everyone all my life for being different, or that's what it's like. If you're different and don't dress like everyone else or don't do the same, you think different, everyone else points fingers at you. There's a good meme with a person in the swimming pool, and he's in a clear bit of water, and everyone else is in the urine, and they're all pointing at him, saying, "Look at you, dirty guy."
That's funny. It's gross. It's sick, but it's funny. Ew. So what else?
I heard you.
It's frustrating, huh? Well,
yeah, I heard you were talking about getting together with some buddies as well and having a physical meetup.
I know, huh? Well, I was saying that. We've had our listeners on Truth Cat Radio and we've been talking about maybe trying to get people to come from as far away as, who knows, a few different states. But I don't, I was thinking about that and I realized, well, if we're in the middle of this public park, we're not going to be able to drink or anything. We'll have to figure that out. We'll end up bringing the party back to the house here in the ghetto.
Yeah.
That could be crazy, huh?
Just put vodka in water bottles.
Vodka and water bottles. Well, who knows? Hey, who knows? We'll see what happens. I'm not about the vodka anyway. You know that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about somehow to disguise it,
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Anyway, I think we're more or less wrap up tonight. You got anything you want to add or say there? You can still get your book again, people. Stephen's book, Lasers, Cavers and Magic, Law17Gun at AOL.com. And you've got your Twitter account, Stephen D. Kelley, there's Facebook account, Stephen D. Kelley. And basically do what you can to research and find out about the Getty, read Stephen's book. And when people are talking about Save the Children and tunnels and stuff, bring up this subject. And if you want to take it further, create some memes, share the thing, because this is ultimately the plan to save the world. Because when we get down there, there's all kinds of technologies and stuff down there, and that's the headquarters essentially of the evil that's in control of this whole shit. So we need to understand the reason why everything's happening on the surface is because of the control and these geezers underneath who pull all the strings. So without getting to that, we'll never actually get to the root of the problem, which is essentially why you're focusing the whole point of your mission on that particular objective.
Yep. Pandora's box.
Yep.
Gotta open it up. Gotta open the lid.
Yep. On that note, thanks for your time, folks, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Take care. Leave a comment and share the video. Do what you can. Cheers.
Cheers.